Hi YouTube, it is day 20 I believe of Project Newborn. It doesn't really matter, today is New Year's, and because we are going into a new year, I want to share with you why you have struggled to be consistent or why you may be struggling going into New Year's to be consistent. Consistent with adapting good habits, with quitting bad habits, because essentially this is what having a good lifestyle comes down to. And I want to tell you a little story how I was struggling to be consistent with quitting bad habits and why it wasn't that my problem was motivation or discipline. Because I hear all people say when they talk about what they struggle with that it is motivation and discipline, which is why they can't stay consistent with their habits. But for me, and I believe also for many other people out there, the actual thing they are struggling with is something completely else. So, when my girlfriend became unexpectedly pregnant a few months ago, I was doing drugs, I was gambling, I was living at my parents' house, and I was working for a company. My lifestyle was ruled by bad habits, even though I was a very goal-oriented person after making the decision of becoming a dad at 19. So I tried to quit my bad habits, but eventually I always fell back to the beginning. I've adapted a new routine with going to the gym, journaling, meditating for about a week, and at some point I just left everything how it was and fell back to the beginning. And it was an ongoing loop. It really feels horrible, like knowing I'm going to be a young dad and that I still can't take accountability for my life. It made me feel really horrible, really, really horrible.
How horrible?
Really horrible, really. No, it was, I would say, one of the worst times of my life. And eventually I realized that my problem was that I was running out of fuel. Picture this: when you try to quit a bad habit just for the sake of quitting the bad habit, your only motivation, your only fuel is to quit the bad habit. Think of quitting bad habits as getting an engine running. If you're consistent with quitting bad habits, your engine is running. Now, your engine obviously needs fuel, and if you start to quit bad habits only for the sake of quitting bad habits, because there's so much frustration that has built up from those bad habits that you decide you want to quit them. If this is your only reason to quit your bad habits, you manage to quit those bad habits because of the amount of frustration that has built up. You manage to quit those bad habits because you are so sick of how you feel and how your life looks. But eventually, a few days down the line, you quit those bad habits, you have fuel, you have motivation to quit those bad habits because you were feeling shit, there was frustration. But a week in the process, you don't really have this frustration anymore. You run out of fuel. That is why many people have this ongoing loop of starting a healthy lifestyle and then falling back to the beginning, and then frustration builds up again, so they start over, and it's an ongoing loop. And what happens is that you build up self-doubt and you start to hate yourself. It's really a horrible thing. The solution I have found that brings you out of this misery is pretty simple. Instead of quitting those bad habits as drugs and gambling for the sake of I need to be responsible, I need to quit it, I need to quit those habits, I started to grow a vision in my mind, a vision of how I want my life to look like. In my vision, I was a very healthy person, I was holding myself accountable, I was running a business, all things that need me to quit those bad habits. And And when I say you need a vision to move towards to, I mean that you should have something to work for. You shouldn't just quit the bad habits for the sake of quitting the bad habit. You should quit those bad habits because you are working for something that requires you to quit those bad habits. What happens then is you start chasing your vision, you start quitting those bad habits, and even if the frustration and everything that has built up is not there anymore, you are still working for your vision, and you still have a reasoning, you still have fuel, motivation to stick to quitting those bad habits, to be consistent. Implementing this is a process. How I would start is by simply envisioning the meaning it has to quit certain habits and to adapt certain habits. Let's take simply doom scrolling as an example. Instead of quitting doom scrolling simply because you are so sick of it and there's so much frustration that has built up, you are going to quit doom scrolling because you want to live a more healthy lifestyle. Why do you want that? You want it because living a more healthy lifestyle makes you more healthy. Being more healthy makes you look more healthy. Looking more healthy means you should look more attractive. And being more attractive leads to many other things in life, as confidence, as better or a better dating life. You can continue this chain literally forever. And what you should do is to get a feeling of what the true meaning behind quitting the bad habit is, and then it will be a lot more easy to quit the bad habit. Because if we get back to the example of the engine, the fuel for the engine isn't the frustration that has built up, which you eventually run out of when successfully quitting the bad habit. The fuel of your engine is basically chasing a version of yourself that you really desire to be, which requires you to quit those bad habits. And because you are so motivated about chasing that vision, you have consistent fuel to let the engine run. That is basically how I managed to overcome my drug and gambling addiction on the journey of becoming a 19-year-old dad. But not just that, I have used the crystal clear vision I have built for myself to embark on a 50-day challenge. What I did to drastically change my life is that I took that vision of my future and I thought about what habits would this version of myself have in order to maintain such a lifestyle. And I took those habits, packed them up into a routine and committed myself to following this routine for 50 days. What happened is that I went from doing drugs, gambling, living at my parents' house and working for a company to moving into this villa in Bali. I quit my safe job, started making my money online and obviously got clean on the journey of becoming a 19-year-old dad in Bali. If you want to embark on making such a crazy change in your life, such a crazy lifestyle shift, I highly suggest you checking out the first link in my Instagram bio, which leads you to the sign up to the waitlist of Project Newborn. It is a 50-day challenge that is going to help you along with many other people together to make a drastic, lasting and impactful change into their life. That's about it with this video. Have a happy new year. Let's grow your Pharrell. Peace.